Okay, so for one, your key initial move is know some formulas. So if you don't have in your brain volume of a sphere, surface area of a sphere, volume of a cube, surface area of a cube, area of a circle, circumference of a circle, I would get those in there. So one's formula to start with is S equals 4 pi r squared, which if you do the derivative of that, you'd get ds equals 8 pi r dr. I once had somebody give me a bad calculus joke t-shirt that I don't know if I still own it. If I do, it's really deep down in my drawer, but it had like all these math formulas and it was telling a joke on the shirt, and I know it finished with r dr r, like hardy har har. Got to a point of r dr r, and every time I read this r dr, I think of that shirt that I don't even know if I own, and I don't even remember the beginning of what it had, but it was an interesting thought, but a little bit too nerdy for my tastes. Sorry whoever bought me that shirt if you ever see this video. 2, I got df dt equals a dm dt, then df dt equals m dA dt, then C, we add those two together, df dt equals a dm dt plus m dA dt. D, you'd start off having 0 equals C's answer, but when it says how is dm dt related to, what does that mean you have to do?
Get dm dt alone.
Get dm dt alone. If you get dm dt alone, you're going to get a negative m over a, and then next to that I like to write dA dt. Technically you could write dA dt on the top where the m is, but then it gives the illusion that that's a fraction and a fraction, even though it really isn't. It just looks awkward, so I don't like to write it that way. E, we're plugging in some numbers. Plug in numbers to the answer you had in C, basically. You do have to use basic algebra to figure out that the A would be 3 by using F equals MA, where you know the F and know the M. You can come to know that the A is 3 to get a plug-in on that. And then algebra, solve. You should get a 15 over 8 if you like improper fractions, or a 1.875 if you prefer decimals, or a 1 7/8 if you prefer mixed for some reason.
What was it?
15 over 8 is what I do. 1.875 also will win. Anybody need any more detail than what I gave?
What was D?
D is negative m on top of a, and next to that dA dt, which means like dA over dt. That looks like a fraction, but it's not a fraction, but it looks like a fraction. It's up in front. If you haven't fixed your 4, 1, and 2 quiz yet, you might want to do that before you take the test. A, because it'll troubleshoot your problems, and B, it's about to be a little bit fresher than it used to be after we did this review. 3, you need a volume formula. So you're going to take the equation V equals 4/3 pi r cubed. You're going to do the derivative of that, and you're going to solve and get a dr dt out of it. And that gets you not the answer, but it's necessary. Then we need a second equation to work from S equals 4 pi r squared. Do the derivative of that. Take the dr dt that you got from the V equation and now plug that into this equation. And if you do all of that right, we should get a 0.04 out of it. That used to be an extra credit question, I think, on the quiz, I believe. For Pythagorean theorem, something like x squared plus y squared equals 100. Do some derivatives of that, so you get like a 2x dx dt plus a 2y dy dt to equal 0. Make sure when you do the derivative of the 100, you make it a 0. And then algebra, go. It's a 5.3 repeating, or a 16 over 3, or a 5 1/3. Since the question said falling, it sort of implies the negative. If you include the negative, I won't criticize you over that, but I don't consider the negative to be necessary because I feel like the word falling kind of handled that. Something on 3 or 4.
What was 4?
4 was 5 1/3 or 5.333.
How do you get that?
Do you have the x squared plus y squared equal 100?
Yeah.
Do you have 2x dx dt plus 2y dy dt equals 0?
Yeah.
Do you choose to live with the 2's or drop the 2's?
Drop them.
Okay, that's fine. Then we'd be taking the 8 from the x times a 4 from the dx dt plus a 6 from the y that you had to figure out because it's a triplet
Yeah.
times a mystery that you're going to solve
Equaling 0?
equals 0.
Okay. I think I got it.
Okay.
I got it.
Something up to 4?
Can you do
3. Do you have v equals 4/3 pi r cubed?
Yeah.
Do you have dv dt equals, what does it equal?
4 pi r squared dr dt?
Agreed. Replace dv dt with
0.14?
0.14. Replace the r with,
7.
and go hunt down dr dt, which is an absurd decimal
Okay.
or an absurd fraction. I left mine as a fraction with like a 0.14 on top of some pi's. I didn't divide that out because the pi button makes it even like worse, but I got it as 0.14 over like more than 100 pi's.
Is it 196?
It is.
Okay.
See with that?
Mm-hmm.
Then put that on hold. We're going to need that in a minute, but not yet. Then work a surface area equation. S equals 4 pi r squared.
Okay.
So ds dt equals,
8 pi r dr dt?
agreed, where you can replace the r with the 7 again, and you can replace dr dt with that ridiculous pi of 1.14 fraction that we had, which is going to cancel the pi's.
Okay.
And you're just going to end up multiplying some numbers together that aren't too bad, and it should get you a 0.04. Is that enough of the tip?
Yeah.
5, I draw a picture. I have an XY picture, a 4-3 picture, a 12-9 picture where I figured out the 9, but I don't even know if I need to know the 9 the way that I'm doing this now. I set up a cross multiply problem with XY 3, 4, and I got the Y alone. I think the math flows better if you get the Y alone. Anybody, what does Y equal if you get the Y alone? Agree with 3/4 x. Question about the beginning foundation? And then there's another equation you need to know, which is v equals 1/3 pi x squared y. And if you take the v equals 1/3 pi x squared y and you replace the y with the 3/4 x, we can clean that up. So v instead equals new fraction pi x cubed. What's that new fraction? Agreed. Then do the derivative and then plug stuff in. The dv dt is going to get a 24 in its place. The x is going to get a 12 in its place, getting squared. And then you do a bunch of solves. We're hoping for a dx dt answer of 2 on top and 9 pi on the bottom. If you get that answer right, the other answer is pretty easy. You go back to the beginning where we agreed on a 3/4 x, way back. So if we take 3/4 times the x answer, 3/4 times that 2 on top of 9 pi answer we just got, we'll get 1 on top of 6 pi as the y answer.
What was the x answer?
X answer is 2 on top, 9 pi on the bottom.
I do wrong.
Do you have a 24?
Yeah.
Did you flip the 3/4 when it connects to the 24?
So it's 4/3.
Mm-hmm. Pi's going
Five
bottom.
on the bottom.
12s, a pair of 12s to the bottom.
Yeah.
Cancel mania.
Okay. So where's the 24?
24's on top.
Top. Okay. That's
Because
That's
24 was over on that side, owning that side, and you're
Yeah.
trying to get all those numbers off of the side, so 24 just sits top, 3/4 flips, pi goes bottom, and the 12s go bottom.
okay. Okay,
Is
so
that
it's
enough
like
on top?
24 over 108. And then,
Maybe. I didn't multiply anything out, I just canceled everything down. Like, I canceled the 24 with one of my 12s. I canceled the 4 with the other one of my 12s.
okay, yeah,
some-
I see that now. Yeah.
Some 2s and 3s are lurking around. I canceled
over 9
probably
pi?
with them. Yeah, 2 on top, 9 pi on bottom.
Okay.
Yeah, I go cancel to make smaller. You can go bigger to then reduce smaller, but I cancel to go smaller as soon as I can. Any more to 5?
If you had the 12 and you want the other number, how would you get that?
You do a cross multiply problem with 3, 4, 12 mystery.
Okay.
Or you could do almost like a name changer 7th grade thing. Like 4 is in the same position as 12, and 3 is in the same position as a mystery. And since 12 is triple, we can just triple.
Okay.
It doesn't always work out that simply. What always would work is a little cross multiply with 3, 4, 12, and mystery number.
Okay.
Because sometimes it ends up being like 2.8 or something weird.
How do you get the Y?
At the very, very top, you had something that looked like y equaled 3/4 x.
Yeah.
So y's answer now is going to be 3/4 of what x's answer was. So just take the 2 on top of 9 pi answer times 3/4.
Okay.
A little bit of reduce cancel mix.
One over 6 pi.
Yep.
Okay.
And that stuff's debatably the hardest stuff, not because it was harder, but because that's the deepest into our memories from things that are now like well before break. We might have been learning that closer to Thanksgiving or something, who knows.
I mean, yeah, that's like a month ago now.
Yeah, 4-1 and 4-2. Popping this down. Yeah, those lessons are before Thanksgiving. So, 4-1 and 4-2, that was like the homework you were working on over Thanksgiving break, and we came back to like sheets on this. The reviews on this were right after Thanksgiving, but yeah, that's like 2 breaks ago. So
That's ridiculous.
if that seems difficult, that's probably why, because that's pretty deep.
A month and a half ago.
6 and 7 and 8 is also back there in depth. That's back to like pretty far back there, but we've continued to do this. Like
Yeah.
we've been doing this process as part of our like that up down process also does the increase decreases. So this is, even though the lessons are back around Thanksgiving, it's a little bit more active in your brain. But 6, I did the derivative, I factored, I got 3 numbers. What do you think for the 3 numbers? 0, yes. -3, yes. 1, yes. All 3 of those numbers are in bounds. So what we're going to do is come up with y's for all 3 of those numbers, 0, -3, and +1 from our factoring, as well as the 2 numbers that were in the boundary, I guess is what I call that for now. So the min ends up being -3's partner -90. So write it like an ordered pair, -3, -90 min. And then 2 creates the max. 2 partners with 2, 26.6 with a repeat on the 6. That's the max. And the other ones, I could tell you the Y's if you really want to know them, but they didn't factor in. Anything about 6? 7, do the derivative, and then it's going to give you one number, which is 0, but it doesn't matter because 0 is out of bounds. So we're only worried about 27 getting 3, 27 comma 3, that ordered pair is the max, and 8 comma 2, that ordered pair is the min. And that's all we got. Something about that. 8, 3 numbers from least to greatest. Who's the least of the numbers from the parentheses?
Negative 4.
-4. Then
Negative 3.
-3. Then
2.
agreed. The pattern will go decrease, increase, decrease, increase, which makes -4 the min, -3 a max, and +2 a min. Something about that. 9, derivative, factor. I took out a 9. Gets me 2 numbers. The
Negative 2 and 2.
-2, +2, agreed. Put -2 on the left, +2 on the right. It's going to go increase, decrease, increase, making -2 a max and +2 a min. Who is -2's Y buddy for the ordered pair? It's over 100.
148.
148. 2's buddy is about half of that, maybe a little less.
52.
2's buddy is 52. 10, same thing. Do the derivative, do the factoring, come up with 2 numbers. The 2 numbers are both negatives.
-6, -3.
-6 is first, -3 is second. It's the same pattern of increase, decrease, increase. It's the same max first, min second. -6's partner is almost its twin,
6.
6. -3's partner is a decimal or fraction.
1.5.
+1.5, agreed. Something about 9 or 10? That should seem familiar, not because that's recent, but because that's how we do 11, and we just had the quiz doing number 11 yesterday. So that 9 and 10 should be pretty like current, current feeling, I would think. 11, do the derivative, factor, 2 numbers,
0, -3.
0, -3. Do the derivative again, factor again, 2 numbers with one of them is a repeat, 0, -2. So from left to right, I'm going to go -3, -2, 0. And the pattern goes decrease, increase, increase, increase. So after the initial decrease, it's increase city. The up downs are mostly ups. It's going to go up, up, down, up. Get the partners. 0 twins up with its partner 0. Who does -2 give you? -32. -3's buddy is a little bit bigger number. -54. And it looks like kind of like a thumbs down graph. From your point of view, like more like that. Something 11. And that's where the yesterday quiz began, was with a couple of those problems. Asymptote page 12, vertical is 2 and -2. 13's vertical is 5/3. 14 vertical -2. 15 vertical is 1. 16 vertical is -2, with remembering the vertical is if the bottom equals 0. Vertical life. Horizontal is the limit as we approach infinity with x, which means for 12, the bottom has the bigger power, so 0. 13's a tie, so make a fraction, 7/3. 14, 15, 16, you all can't do all 3 of those because the top had the bigger power. Something about horizontal. Okay, slant, if you had a horizontal, give up on the slant, so 12 and 13, nope. The ones where we gave up on the horizontal maybe have a slant, but the top has to be bigger in power by exactly 1. So 14 does that, so we have to divide, isynthetic divide. I got x plus 3. 15 is a no-go because the top won by 2. 16 is a no-go because the top won by 2.
So which one was
Only one we had was 14's x plus 3. Everybody else was a no-go because that one is really picky. Something there. Okay, large dominant term, just copy the horizontal or the slant if you have one. So 12 is a 0, 13 is 7/3, 14 is x plus 3, 15 we have to divide to get it. It's x squared plus 5x plus 11. 16 we have to divide to get it. It's x squared. Something about the largers. 16 I synthetic divide, so I did -2 in my little square corner box. And then 1, 2, 0, -4.
Yeah.
What was the large on that?
X squared. Smalls are the remainders if you divide. The easiest small is whenever 0 was the large, and then who's the small?
The problem.
The problem itself gets copied as the small. 13 is probably the hardest one to do the small because you have to long divide, and you have to long divide with fractions in play. It's 59 on top. The bottom I left as a distribute problem, 3 on the bottom with a set of parentheses, 3x minus 5. 14's a new item, but we had to divide anyway before to get the slant, so we just grabbed the remainder, -5 on top of x plus 2. 15 we had to divide, we get for the small 18 on top of x minus 1. 16 we're dividing, it gets us -4 on top of x plus 2. And then I just have to graph 16 and then call it a day on this page. Something about the small. Sixteen's the trickiest graph that I've graphed on the board. I mean, it's not the trickiest graph I've graphed in my life, but it's the trickiest one I've graphed with you guys. Let's do the small dominant term first. So the small dominant term is kind of like the 1 over x shape. Okay, it has an x on the bottom, so it's kind of like the 1 over x shape, which would fill this quadrant and this quadrant. But it got changed in 2 ways that are both important. What does the plus 2 do to us?
Moves it to the right.
Left 2. How does left
idea.
2 agree with another fact we already agreed on? Bottom equals 0, vertical asymptote was -2. So we're shoved this way too. So now we're thinking this is a shape, which it isn't quite, because what else is going on here? If this was a 4, I would go like this right now. But it's a -4. What do negatives do to graphy life? Flips. So instead of filling this space,
It's
it's
2 and
filling
4.
that space. And instead of filling this space, I'm filling that space. So the -4 over x plus 2, we got to shove left 2, and we've got to do the flipped version of our normal 1 over x graph. And I'm aiming for those areas when I'm in tight to the asymptote. I'm no longer in tight to the y-axis like I have been on most of these other graphs. The y-axis like shifted left in a sense, two spaces to be the vertical asymptote. X squared is nice and easy. We've known what x squared graphs like for most of our life. It's a U shape. So I'm going to shoot for that U shape when I get out on the edges. And then what I need to try to do is resemble this zone where I'm close to it, and resemble that zone where I'm close to it, but not touch anything. So that's going to be like a little bit of a U-y. And this is a sneaky snake, because I want to resemble this where I'm close to it, and resemble that where I'm close to it. But if I'm not trying to want to touch anything, I have to sneaky snake my way, like, through that sneaky snake space. And then graph it on your calculator to verify your sneaky snake and your U. And it is doing that. if you'd want to find a touch point just to do it, if you plugged in 0, you'd get out -2 without a lot of bother. The y-axis touch on this would be a -2 touch, but it's not super crucial that you do that. Something there. Okay, 17, I think, made the second practice quiz, the longer one. I think this was one of the extra problems that we practiced on the second sheet. But 17, I'm looking to do an equation to make substitutions like LW equals 16. You might use other letters, that's fine. One letter would equal 16 over the other. Question about basics start. A perimeter equation, P equals 2 letter plus 2 other letter. And if you make a substitution, what you're going to have is 2 letter plus 32 over letter, or 2 letter plus 32 letter to the -1, something like that. Do the derivative. When you do the derivative, you're going to get 2 minus 32 over letter squared, because it's going to be a -32 letter to the -2 when you do the derivative. Solve that. That's going to involve probably a little bit of cross multiplication at some point, because the letter on the bottom with that negative power is like going to make a fraction, and if you solve it, you're going to get a 4, and then the partner letter is another 4. So being 4 by 4 is something. You're just not sure if that's the max or the min. It ends up being the min, which is good because that's what we want. But to verify it's the min, you might want to think about like an 8 by 2 shape has a bigger perimeter, or a 16 by 1 shape has a bigger perimeter, or play around with whatever other numbers you want to play around with. They'd all have bigger perimeters than this one's perimeter. If I asked you to find the max, you couldn't, because there's no boundary really, and it just would be weird. Something there. 18 was a mean one, Mr. Grinch, because the Pythagorean theorem is what you're using as a substitute with. So 18, the substitution type equation would be x squared plus y squared equals 36. So your substitution would be one letter equaling a root of 36 minus the other letter squared. So one letter would equal the root of 36 minus the other letter squared. That's our substitution level info. Rewind on that. The equation you're doing the derivative of would be a equals half xy. But when you substitute, that would be a half times a letter times a root with 36 minus a letter squared. And that's going to be a real pain to do the derivative of that. Because what are you going to have to do at the same time?
Product rule.
Product rule for sure. And while you do the product rule and you attack the derivative of the one piece, you're going to have to do what other rule? To do the Rudy derivative, chain rule. If you do that right, you're going to see a half 3 times, and you're going to see a -2 pop out when you do the chain rule. The 3 different halves are caused by, like, copying the first is going to have a half. The derivative of the second is going to bring out another half. The derivative of the first is going to bring out a half. The -2 is popping out from the chain rule when you do the derivative of the root. But it's hard for me, not knowing what letters you pick, to really like give you the blow-by-blow description of this. This is one that you're going to end up in a cross multiply. If you end up in a cross multiply situation, where a root is multiplying itself. You have done good work. That's where this always has to end up, is there's two roots involved. There's a root because of a negative half power, and there's a root because there's a positive half power, and those roots are on opposite sides of a fraction. So if you cross multiply, the root sign disappears and it cleans up real fast at that point. But for a while you're doing the derivative, it's really quite large. What we're hoping for is an x that's 3 root 2 and a y that's also 3 root 2. And an area that's 9 is what we're hunting. But that might be a problem for the board in a little bit, but we may run out of minutes today, so that might be a problem for a board for another time. 19 gets like a lot easier than those other two. We haven't done one like this since you did the homework. If you did the homework, if you didn't do the homework, you've never done one like this, I guess. But we're doing the derivative to get v equals negative 48t plus 48. We're doing another derivative to get just plain old negative 48. For maximum height, what equation do you go look at? Nope. There's a fact at max height that's more of a physics fact. V equals 0 for maximum height. So you go to the V equation that you made, you let it equal 0, and you do algebra to get t. It is 1. And once you know that the t is 1, you can use the t of 1 to figure out what the actual height is by plugging it in to the very, very top. And that'll get you agreed. Then we work inside and out through a different grouping of equations. Then I say that s equals 0. So you'd go to the very, very, very top and replace the s with a 0 and solve that for time. You could factor, probably might be simpler to just use your quadratic program. You're going to get a negative time and a positive time. The positive time is worthwhile. Anybody have a positive time? Somebody whispered it maybe? 4. It is 4. And then I didn't ask you for the time. I asked you to work through the time to get the v. So take that 4 on a trip to the v equation and stick that 4 in for the t in v's equation. And that'll answer out negative 144 is the truth. I think 18's harder than the 3 questions you did on the quiz, but I think the other 2 are easier than the ones you did on the quiz. You're probably not sad to see the poster and some of that other stuff just go away. Anything I can quickly do while leaving me for at least a couple minutes to do these other 2 quick pages real quick? Tomorrow's probably a bigger conversation on 18 when we have a little more time. 20 to 34, I like to do my big plus C and not have to write that each individual time. 20 is negative when we make a negative cosine x. Then 1/4 x to the 4 minus 7/2 x squared plus 8x. Then 1/12 x to the 12. Then 8x. Then negative when I make a 1/8 cotan 8x. Tan x. Negative 8x to the negative 1. 7/4 x to the 4 plus 8/3 x to the 3 plus 9/2 x squared plus 10x. 28 is 7/2 x to the 2. 29, sometimes fractions mess with people. Just be careful. You flip the fraction when you divide, things like that. But 29, we're hoping for 7 over 15 x to the 10/7. 30 is negative because we're making a negative 1/5 cosecant 5x. 31 is not negative. We don't care that the problem had a we care when the answer has a it's sine x. 32, a little bit of rewriting with negative fraction powers in the problem. Answer is going to be back to positives once we go up by 1. is 5/3 x to the 3/5. 33 is 2x plus 1/5 sine 5x. And then the last one I do rewriting as a fraction power, and then go at that. It'll be 2/3 x to the 3/2. Anybody need help on those? 35, the final payoff's a +8. Okay, the grand total is 2x cubed minus 5x squared plus 7x plus 8. 36 takes us 2 steps. First step is an x minus cosine x plus 4, not 3, because the cosine of 0 is 1, and that like changes some stuff around. Final answer is going to have a +7 at the finish line. It's a half x squared minus sine x plus 4x plus 7. That whole thing is the answer, not just the 7. Sometimes people like put 7 down and act like they answered it. The full thing, starting from half x squared and finishing with 7, that was all the answer. Anything I can do on those? About 50 seconds to spare, but so another sheet for tomorrow, and then we'll see how it's going.